Well, hey, everybody. Happy Tuesday. How is everybody doing today? I'm going to give folks just a couple of minutes just to kind of get logged in. I know that this time of day, everybody is either maybe at work or finishing up lunch or just getting their day going. All the time zones are a little bit different. Which is why today's session will be recorded and the recording has started. That way you can go back and watch it as many times as you need to. Can everybody hear me okay? Want to make sure you guys can hear me and see me okay. Okay, perfect. Good. Wonderful. Well, y'all, today's session is for students that are taking IDS 105. So I assume all of you are in IDS 105 this term. And we're going to be talking about what is due here in week 2. And we're also going to be talking about how to use our incredible academic support center. Okay. So today's session usually is about 30 minutes. It might go a little bit longer, just depending on y'all's questions and kind of as we navigate through today's content. But this is recorded. The recording's already started. So you can always go back and watch this as many times as you might want to. And I'm going to pop those links in case you didn't know. We have first year experience YouTube pages specifically and learning communities for IDS 105, where all of these webinars and information are always posted every Monday. So you can just go there. They're already recorded and ready to rock and roll. If you want to go back and watch today's, you just have to go to the website and then click on today's week 2. All right. Okay. So I see we got some more people that are joining us. It's 12:03 and I know that y'all's time is precious. When I share my screen, I can't always see the chat, but I will go through and make sure that I review any questions that you might have as I get going, because I'll have to kind of look at 2 different screens. So if I miss something, don't hesitate to ask it again, but I will cover most common questions that y'all have today. So can everybody see the PowerPoint screen? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go in here real quick, but I wanted to make sure that everybody could see it. Okay, I'm going to make it bigger. Is that better? It was itty bitty tiny living space, right? It was pretty tiny. So today we're going to be talking about defining social justice. That is the big, heavy concept for your IDS 105 week 2 class. And we're going to talk about that very first project draft that y'all have coming up and you're going to use all term long. So first and foremost, your experience here at Southern New Hampshire University is incredibly important to us. It's our policy and practice to create an inclusive and accessible learning environment. If there are aspects of instruction or course design that present any barriers to your learning accessibility, please notify the Online Accessibility Center, known as the OAC, as soon as possible at 866-305-9430. You can also email them at oac@snhu.edu or visit the Online Accessibility Center website. I bring up this department as a reminder for y'all to know that if there is any barriers to learning, this is the team that you want to connect with for your success. The OAC, you can find them online, you can email them, you can call them, but they're great about getting you content in a way that works best for you and your learning style. Okay. Couple of webinar reminders or things to know is that this is an academic space, so always be mindful of your conduct. These learning community webinars, whether they're live or pre-recorded or on demand is what we call them, they're not required. They're not graded. There's no extra credit points, but they will show you from week to week how to do assignments in your class and or go over assignments and concepts that you're talking about from week to week in your IDS 105 course. When there's a live session like today, it's always recorded and posted within 24 hours. Every other webinar for the week will be ready to rock and roll bright and early Monday morning as you start the new module. Okay. Have any of you guys seen the other webinars? Did you see the preterm webinar or last week's 1 sessions? They're just an extra support to walk you through the content and make sure you know what you're doing and how to click and where to find things, right? So a couple of reminders about week 2, module 2. I said this earlier. I can't believe that we're already here. Feels like it's already going so fast. Make sure, everyone, top tip, that you are reading those course announcements that your instructors are posting in your Brightspace classrooms and checking your SNHU email. The university communicates with you via that SNHU email, so make sure you're checking it. A lot of faculty send reminders to student emails, but always make sure that you are checking those course announcements throughout the week too, because faculty will put tips for success. Sometimes they might share helpful infographics or images or videos to help you connect the concepts that we're talking about with your assignment. So don't skip on reading those announcements. Sometimes they can be a little lengthy, but roll with it. Review them. It'll just help you be even more successful. Okay. If you have any questions, if you're stuck on something, you're not sure on something, something's unclear, maybe your day got away from you or you struggled on an assignment, whatever it might be, please do not hesitate to reach out to your course instructors, okay? We want to help you. We want to help you answer those questions. We are here for you and your success. So send that email. Everybody has an email, or if it's a department you want to reach out to, don't hesitate. Email, call, text with your faculty if there's any questions. We want you to be successful. And then I wanted to put a quick reminder about the week 1 grades. So last week was your very first week here in IDS 105. So you worked on all your assignments, right? Initial discussion post was due Thursday, peer responses, and your other assignments were due on Sunday, right? So your faculty have from this last Sunday until this next Sunday of week 2 to grade. Some instructors grade as things come in. Some instructors grade throughout the week. Some you might not see your stuff until Sunday night. So don't panic if you haven't seen a grade yet. But if you have questions, you want to make sure your instructor got your work or you weren't seeing something, or you have questions on their graded feedback, make sure you get with your instructor. I wanted to point out that you can find your grades by going into your Brightspace class. Underneath that course menu on the left-hand side, if you're looking at your screen, scroll down to grades. And when you click on that, it's going to pull up all your assignments and you can see what's been graded. And then there will be a little line that says like view rubric, view assessment. You click on that and you'll be able to open up what your faculty thinks about your assignments line by line from that rubric. Okay. The other cool thing is new in Brightspace, you all get to see this now, is right when you log into your Brightspace classroom, you see that my instructor, whoever your instructor is, and right underneath it, you'll see what your grade is currently. So that's a quick way to check your grade, to keep it on the forefront of your mind, but always know that you can click on that grade section, okay? Has anybody been checking their grades? Curious how you're doing, seeing what's coming in? I always tell students, make sure you're checking your stuff, because sometimes with technology, there could have been a glitch or something that happened and maybe something didn't get turned in. So always keep an eye on those. Check your announcements, check your email, check your grades, the top 3, right? So week 2, module 2, you all have your very first project draft. And I'm going to talk about that more here in a minute in depth, okay? So for this project draft, you're going to be picking a scenario to use or creating your own. You want to make sure you have Microsoft Word or a PDF or something compatible. You do get Office 365 for free as an SNHU student. So if you don't have Microsoft Word or something compatible to that, you do get that for free. And I'll show you when we get done here today how to find that underneath online student services. So with this project draft, you're picking a scenario, you're going to stick with it all term, you're going to use it to answer some questions, okay? With this project draft, it is due by Sunday or earlier as convenient for your schedule. Video note submissions are absolutely not permitted for any pieces or parts of the project draft or the final project. So know that, okay? That is a creative option that you have for your journals, but it is not something you can utilize for your project drafts. Something to also, whoops, there's my computer wanted to go fast. Something also I wanted to remind you of is you're just picking one scenario. And I'm going to talk about this more in depth so it doesn't seem so overwhelming. But you're going to pick one scenario and you're going to stick with it all term long. Again, your very first project draft is just a piece of the project, is due by Sunday or earlier. And then you also have a warm-up assignment, which is like an open book quiz. Don't let the word quiz scare you. You can review the module content, review the required reading and required resources for this week, and take that quiz, that warm-up. It auto grades as soon as you submit it, and you can take it as many times as you want to earn your best score. Okay, so just know that. But I always tell students, review the reading, review your required resources, look through what's in the module, then take that warm-up. And you will see that that auto grades. If for some reason you don't see a grade within a couple of minutes, you can always let your instructor know. But it auto grades, which is kind of cool because you can see how you did and you can go back and take it as many times as you need to. That warm-up is due on Sunday. And I see some of you already are in there, like checking your grades, you're looking, you've already done that warm-up. And it's okay if you haven't done it yet. Y'all have all week. I do like to give the tip to students, if you can work ahead earlier in the week, if your schedule allows. Not everybody's schedule is going to allow that, and we all got to do what works best for us. But if you can work ahead a little bit earlier in the week, it gives you flexibility in case your week falls apart. I don't know about y'all, but by the time Friday rolls around, I feel like between work and school and kids and just all the pieces that are on our plates, by the time the end of the week rolls around, it's like, oh man, I just need a minute, right? So if you have your homework done earlier in the week, you get a reward of that minute. So just an idea. But I know that's not conducive for everybody. I know I have many students in my own classrooms that they work the weekend, or they work night shift or different things like that. So you have to do what works for you. So today's big topic for Module 2 is social justice. And for many of you, this may be a brand new vocabulary word, right? Is anybody new to this? This may be something you've never explored, you're not familiar with it, you don't know anything about it. And for others, you might be really well versed in this, or you might be somewhere in the middle. And no matter where you are just going to share your thoughts and feedback from the experiences and the information you're going to read and watch in this week's class. Okay, so social justice is defined as the concept in which equity or justice is achieved in every aspect of society rather than in only some aspects or for some people, and affords individuals and groups fair treatment. So basically, it's being fair across the board. As we get into our class, we're going to learn a lot about kind of your own background and your own experiences that might have helped you build kind of like your definition of what you think is fairness, or how you might see different people or different backgrounds or different groups. And so it's really kind of a cool way to get to know a lot about you. And I have a lot of students that are very well versed in it, and a lot of students that this is totally new, and that's okay. The biggest thing for social justice is you're kind of looking for that fairness across the board. There are 5 core principles of social justice. These are important. You're going to utilize these throughout the term, especially here in this week. Number 1 is access to resources. So making sure that everybody would have access to the same resources. Number 2 is that equity, that equality across the point, right? Number 3 is participation. Number 4 is diversity. And number 5 is human rights. Okay. So when you're thinking about fairness and equality and perceptions, these are some things I want you to think about. This will help you kind of frame your answers or responses, or like give you some things to think about or meditate about as you consider social justice, especially as you start answering the questions for your project draft. Okay. So just one thing real quick, like think to yourself or out loud, like how have the experiences you have lived, so you have lived, impacted your own beliefs and behaviors, right? One thing to think about. Like for me, I came from a really small town, like a blinking traffic light. And I had like zero diversity growing up, so my experiences and like what I thought when I moved to the city for college, whoa, my mind was totally blown, right? So something that like, just to kind of help you put it in perspective a little bit. For others, you might live in like a melting pot of personalities and backgrounds and people, and that's your everyday experience. And others, we don't have that, right? Number 2, something to think about. How have your values led you to view people from different cultures accurately, or maybe you view them with bias? Number 3 is last week we talked about the idea of like our social identities. Do you guys remember that, right? What were some things that you said? Like when I think about like my social identity, I think about like I'm a woman, right? I'm a mom. I'm a sister. I'm a college professor. Like I think about like how I identify with the world. Other people might share other aspects or other characteristics that are about them. And for many of us, we're multiple things, right? We're not just one characteristic, we're multiple things. So thinking about what you learned about yourself last week. Did anybody learn anything new about themselves last week? That's one of my favorite discussions, is seeing how people kind of talk about themselves and how they understand themselves. A lot of us, we have multiple pieces and parts to us, right? We're multifaceted. So when you think about yourself and all the experiences and things that you have been through and the things that you do and the things that you believe, what stories do you live by or tell others about yourself? So these questions, they're not graded questions. These are just to kind of get you thinking a little bit and understanding a little bit more about social justice and how we all might have very different answers for what we think about each question and how we share our experiences as we go through our assignments. Okay, did that help a little bit? I know for many students, they're like, oh, this is new for me. This is a lot for me. And others are like, okay, like I know a lot about this, but I don't want to like be too much. The biggest thing is just to be yourself. Be yourself, be respectful, be kind, but yet you still want to share your stories, right? So this week, like I talked about, we have that warm up, which we already discussed. But what your other assignment is this project draft. So you have a project that you are basically working on all term long. there's a template that I'll show you that you're going to open up. And when you open up this template, it's going to have the questions that you're going to answer for this week in Module 2. It's also going to have Module 3s already on it. Same with Module 4 and Module 5. But you're only answering the questions for Module 2. Does that make sense? Sound so far? So you're going to open up this project template. You can find it underneath Module 2 in your Brightspace Classroom, underneath What to Submit. You're going to click on Project Template. It's a Word document that opens up. Remember, I said if you don't have Microsoft Word or something compatible, we have Office 365 for free for you as an SNH2 student to download and get that all situated. Okay. But you're also going to have this project scenarios document, and then you're going to have the guidelines and rubric, which tell you how you're graded, right? So the project scenarios document, when you click on it, it's a PDF document. It's going to open up, and I'll show you all of this in the classroom. But when you click on it, it's going to list all the different scenarios. So what you are doing is there are 4 different scenario options. You want to review them and then pick which one you want to do. Okay, so we have scenario 1 is a school scenario. So what you're doing is you're going to look at the project draft questions that are due here in Module 2. And depending on which scenario you pick, so there's school, there's workplace, there's personal, and there's a create your own option. Depending on which one you picked or create, you are going to use the information within this scenario to help you answer the questions. Okay? So scenario number 1 is school. So this is all about a school experience. So you are putting yourself in the shoes of a first-year college student. Most of you are right there, right? And you're overwhelmed by the demands of like coursework and extracurricular stuff, and maybe you're working, you have a lot of assignments. You're going to meet with an academic advisor. You have just a lot going on, and you're working with all these different diverse cultures, backgrounds, peers. And so as you think about yourself in that scenario, you're going to answer the questions that we're going to talk about here in Module 2. Okay, so the first one is school. The second one is personal. The personal situation or scenario is where we get together with our friends and family. Many of us just did this for the holidays, right? Or you might be doing this coming up. And this scenario talks about the news and the impact different cultures and differences of opinions have relating to the concepts of social justice. And maybe you and one of your relatives just are not on the same page. So this is an example that you could choose if you want to use this scenario through the term to answer all the questions for the project draft, okay? Scenario 3 is a workplace scenario. So this one is about an organization that you work for that is expanding and acquiring international business, growing the employee population. People are in multiple time zones, states, countries across the world. Everybody views work and time differently. You're trying to learn how to collaborate and work together. If this is something that you're like, yeah, I can speak to this, I can talk to this, this might be a good scenario for you. Or there's a create your own scenario. Sometimes you might have the opportunity to share something that you have been through, and you can choose your own scenario to create. And if you choose your own scenario, you have to actually write out your scenario at the top of the page, the project draft, and I'll show you where that is. And include that detailed description. And your instructor, if they grade it, they might be like, yeah, this is good to go. However, they also might be like, hey, this is a great start, but you might need to add a few things. You'll need to make sure that you're on the same page with them. Okay, there's not an approval process. Like you don't have to send your scenario to your instructor to approve it and then answer the questions. You can go ahead and put it all together, and then they'll let you know if they need more information. Okay, does that sound good? I saw some questions about exemplars or examples of this project. There isn't one right now. There are some that we're working on those. But one of the best things I can do is to tell you to work with academic support. And we're going to talk about that here in just a little bit, okay? Other things with that create your own scenario, if you choose this, you have to have the details. Like the how, the what, the when, the where of the scenario. So if you're going to share like a personal story or a personal experience and you want to use that to help you answer the questions from week to week in your IDS 105 class, make sure you have the details. Make sure you share who's involved, the people, the places, the things. There has to be enough context that your instructor can understand where you're coming from. There has to be a conflict or an issue described in it. So like, for example, in the school one, it was just there's a lot of overlapping and a lot of competing priorities. You know, in the workplace one, it's different states, time zones, work ethic, you know, all the different things. And then there was a difference with like political or personalities or the news media in the personal one. Okay, so you have to have some kind of an issue, right? And then you have to make sure, this is key. So for example, this week we talked about those core principles, right? The 5. If you create your own, you have to make sure that create your own scenario speaks to at least 2 of them. Okay, does that make sense so far, y'all? I know it's kind of a lot, but I'm going to show you where to find everything. And I know a lot of you are like, I just don't know how to word this. This is where the academic support team comes in big time, okay? So just a reminder, you can find everything you need, the template, the project scenarios document, and even how you're graded with the rubric underneath that what to submit area. And I will show you all that here once we get done. So these are the questions that you're answering. So when you open up the project draft, it is going to look like this. This is just part 1, okay? You're going to see when you open up the document, it has all the pieces and parts. You're only answering these 4 questions for module 2, okay? So for example, identify your chosen scenario here. When you open up this document, you can type right in it. So if you pick the personal one, the school one, the workplace one, list that here. If you created your own, this is where you need to put all the pieces and the parts for it, okay? Does that make sense, everybody? Everybody still with me? I want to make sure I saw, oh good, Allison's in the chat in there. So you are thinking about your scenario. So let's say that I picked the school scenario. So I want to look at the details and information from that school scenario, and I'm going to answer this question thinking about the school scenario and any experiences or knowledge that I might have. Explain the difference between justice, fairness, and equality as they apply in your scenario. So break it down. A couple sentences, right, for each one. Number 2, describe how bias could impact social justice in your chosen scenario. Well, in the school scenario, there's a lot of different diverse groups as a student population. There's a lot of different competing priorities. Somebody might value that, somebody might not. So those are just some examples of things to think about from a bias perspective and explain them, describe them. Be honest, okay? Number 3 is to explain how different narratives circulating in society could impact how social justice is perceived in your chosen scenario. So a narrative is a story that somebody is telling, okay? So this could be how social media makes things sound or look like, or the news, or even amongst your friends, family, community members. So that's kind of what that narrative is, okay? So explain that. And then number 4 is explain the core principles of social justice in your chosen scenario. What I tell students is that maybe you don't have all 5 present, but the question says explain the core principles. It's plural. So make sure you at least describe 2. Each scenario has at least 2. Okay, so does that make sense? And I know there's a lot of workshops and stuff the academic support team is working on. I know it can seem a little bit overwhelming, but once you kind of do this first draft and you answer the questions, you have so much help and support, and it just helps it flow a little bit better. Okay, so speaking of help and support, we have the most amazing special guest with us. We have Allison Johnson from our academic support team. She is someone who has such experience working with not only this project, but all of the writing assignments across SNHU's curriculum. She works specifically a lot with me in both SNU 107 and IDS 105. So her and her team know these projects and these drafts really well, okay? Some fun facts about her. She used to teach high school English in a rural town that didn't even have a traffic light. She's been an academic advisor for online students. She loves to work with all students, but she has a special place in her heart for those that have been out of school for a while. Anybody here that has been out of school for a minute? My favorite fun fact, though, is that she's a huge fan of stand-up comedy and has a collection of old comedy records, which is always one of my favorite things. But she is one of the many, many people that are here to support your success here at SNHU in general, but also as you work on this project. So how this is going to work is I have some questions for Allison. She's going to answer them. We're going to kind of go back and forth. And when we get done, I'm going to go to the classroom space and walk you through kind of like where to click and how to find everything we've talked about today. Okay. So first and foremost, Allison, how do students access or find the academic support team and all your services?
There we go. Now you can hear me.
We can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, because if it's muted, it doesn't work. Fun fact. So this picture speaks 1,000 words. We are in all of your Brightspace courses. So right now in your IDS class, if you go above that banner with the picture on it to this top menu, this is the absolute fastest way to get to us over at academic support. We're right next to Shapiro Library and the help menu. You click on academic support and it pops you out to our academic support area that has a whole bunch of different ways for you to connect in the way that works best for you. I think that's, there's also, we're also in the module and we're some other places, but this is the fastest way.
It is the fastest way. Allison, is academic support only for certain classes? Can all students use it? And like when they open up that menu of services, what are they? They can seem like a lot.
Yes. So the reason why we have so many options is everybody's different, every class is different, every the needs are different. And so depending on what your schedule looks like, we want to make sure we have things that meet you where you're at and what you need for every single class and term. So we are open for every enrolled student for academic work. And some of the workshops kind of also speak to like different levels of life experience too. So they might be things that you could apply to other areas because they're about writing, AI, lots of different things. But we really need to have you enrolled in a class, and that could be undergraduate, graduate level courses, and we'll be discussing what you're doing in terms of school. And so the different options we have on our menu are 24/7 drop-in. When you click on that, it takes you into a chat area where you can post a question. This is great for those moments where you're feeling maybe a little stuck or unsure about how to begin an assignment or having challenges with a math problem because it's a live chat. There is an audio chat feature. Sometimes you have to wait a little bit longer for that one, but it's 24/7. So keep in mind, if you are working really late or really early in the morning, this option is available to you. Written feedback, which I mentioned in our chat for the meeting for Jasmine, was, and any of you who just want a second set of eyes on your draft before your instructor takes a look at it, when you click on that Try It Now link, it takes you to a form to fill out because there will be a actual reviewer, a person looking at your draft, and they want to tailor their feedback to you. So fill out the form with as much information about the assignment and your concerns about the assignment so that they know what you're looking for. If you're a little concerned about citations or if you want to know if you have enough detail, let them know maybe what your instructors have told you. If you have received certain feedback, maybe adding more detail to your writing, let them know so they can kind of look at it and adjust their feedback to what your concerns are. Workshops, if you're liking this experience and other experiences and want something that's a little bit more interactive, workshops are available on all different types of topics. So from writing and research all the way through to accounting and macro and microeconomics. Another really good workshop that we have is a rubric support office hours, where it's like come with questions sort of situation. So if you have questions on the assignment, maybe it's one of these where there's a template but no example paper and you just want to talk it through with somebody, that drop-in workshop's a really good area because you'll hear from other people as well who have questions, maybe even in your own class. But it's, you can sign up for them, and it's always great if you can attend them because then you can interact, ask questions in the moment. Peer tutoring, we have on staff so many wonderful, empathetic, and really knowledgeable peer tutors. There are subject matter experts. So if you're in a psychology class or you're in an English class or this class, we've got you covered in terms of folks who can help with the content. When you click on that, it gives you a little drop-down menu. So you put your subject that you're of the class that you're in and maybe a little bit of the focus. So that might be writing and research as the subject. And then you might put citations as an example. And then you'll see the calendar of availability, who's available to help you with that. You can also just put in rubric support and rubric support in both areas, and you'll see the most amount of tutors. But if you're looking for somebody who really specializes in something like macroeconomics, you'll want to make sure that you're using that to clarify. And then when you click on the tutors, you'll see a list of their specialty areas as well. The workshops are also a really great way of getting to know peer tutors and academic coaches. And the next tile is academic coaching, which I am one of the academic coaches, so I'm one of the people you might work with if you come to academic coaching. So academic coaching is a goal-based coaching plan. We have a meeting with you, which we call the initial meeting or intake meeting, where we get to know you, have you do a confidence survey, and kind of get to know the situation and set some goals, academic goals that you have for yourself. That could be time management or note-taking or reading comprehension, something to help your studenting skills and help you feel more confident as a learner in your classes overall. So not necessarily just one class, but to make sure you have a good plan and your goals for yourself as a learner are being met. And we usually start off with a 3-week plan. So we'll have that initial meeting and then meet for 3 weeks to work on that goal, at which point we do a next steps conversation and say, well, what's the next support to help you on the goals that you have for yourself? We also have, and I'll post a few things in here for you, but we also have a lot of resources, and we have a new academic resource center. I'm going to post the link to that now. So if you're a person that likes to learn on your own and you appreciate videos, we have a lot of videos over there to walk through different concepts related to your classes. We have a lot of infographics and a lot of information over in the Academic Resource Center, or the ARC as we're calling it. And then if you have any questions, that frequently asked questions section kind of answers them, but you can always reach out to academic support at snhu.edu with any questions that you might have as well. So those are all the options. It is a lot, and you're welcome to use more than one at a time. The only kind of rule we have on some things is like 72 hours in between peer tutoring sessions, just to make sure everybody can make use of the peer tutors, and to make sure you have some time to kind of think and process that information. The peer tutoring and academic coaching are one-on-one sessions that are 45 minutes in length. So that's another good thing to know about. All right, that was the spiel on all of them.
So many incredible options. Students, I cannot tell you, I have taught for SNHU for over 10 years, and students consistently tell me that they are so happy they worked with academic support on whatever it might be, written feedback, if they needed more one-on-one, if they used the tutoring. And a lot of times students will come in like week 4, week 5 and be like, why did I not do this sooner? They're kind of like kicking themselves because they were stressed out about a writing assignment, or not sure they were like saying the right things, or overthinking it, which I can see some of y'all are doing too. You're like really nervous about how you're going to answer these questions and what you're going to say. Write up your thoughts and your rough draft and get it off to the academic support team. Like, don't overthink it. And if it works better for you to physically print out the project draft and hand write in the answers to the questions and then go back and type it up, do that. Or you can, type it up and get it to them, but like, do what works best for you. Sometimes we have to like switch up how we do things. And I know when it's your first like big writing assignment, you're like, oh my gosh, but know that you can always reach out and ask questions, and you have so many resources that are here at your fingertips. So Allison, any common mistakes that you see kind of like on these projects or writing assignments, or tips or tricks for their success?
Absolutely. And Jennifer, I see your question, so I'll just answer that too. So when you go into the Academic Support Center and you schedule, the scheduler that you see, the schedule for the coaching and the peer tutoring and the workshops should be in your time zone, as long as your computer is on the right time zone. So make sure your clock's on the right time. The reminders that you get from the system are on Eastern Standard Time. So that's the only thing, like the system sends text messages and reminders an hour beforehand, and it says Eastern Standard Time. But you should see it in your own time zone when you actually go to there. So tips to piggyback off of what Melanie was saying. Sometimes just starting an assignment can be the most challenging part of it. That overthinking happens. And so in addition to handwriting, if handwriting is something that's useful, if you're a talker, if you're somebody that like talks out ideas to people, there is that dictate tool in Microsoft Word. It's a microphone. You just press it and then talk, and then it gets your words down, and that's a good way to start an assignment as well. Also, if you're a handwriter, then instead of doing that typing back and forth, you can always read what you wrote and then change the things using the dictate. So just remember you've got the different technology there to help assist you, in addition to, you know, the different spell checkers. So that's another tip. Make sure you run the spell check that's embedded in Microsoft Word. We do have Grammarly, like the free version of it, which can be really good. Some people don't like it because it kind of changes things as you go and you're not finished yet. So those things can be really useful as well. The written feedback helps. And then, you know, of course, one of the best things is yourself. Like you are the captain of your own ship. You are the person that is writing this. So it's the most important thing is once you're done, once you have everything on the paper, go back and grade yourself. Open up that rubric and go through and see, put your instructor hat on. You've heard from your instructor, you have a good idea, you know, after this week, a little bit about what they're looking for. Their announcements should say that as well. But if you grade yourself at the end, you can kind of see it through your instructor's eyes. Just imagine, I often say, imagine your bleary-eyed instructor opening up your assignment at midnight after a long day of doing other things, because, you know, oftentimes they also have a life. They're not just living in the computer. Is it going to be easy for them to see your brilliance and your answer and understand? They're not mind readers. They don't know everything about you and your existence. Did you give them enough detail to back up what you're saying so that they fully understand you? So think about it that way. You can read it aloud to a friend or family member. That's a great way of sharing your work, because another thing that can be really helpful and even better is have them read it to you because they're seeing it for the first time. And so if something doesn't make sense to them, they might read a sentence and say, hold on, wait a minute, what's going on? And then the other thing that can be really helpful is, in addition to the dictate mode, which is something you all have as long as you have Microsoft Word, it's embedded in Microsoft Word. So it also has a read aloud function. And so if you don't have anybody at home who can read it back to you so that you can hear what it sounds like, you can use the read aloud function to kind of hear what it sounds like and approach it with a fresh set of ears and eyes because you've been looking at the draft for a while and thinking about it for a while. Another common tip or trick, because this has a template, make sure you get all of those questions answered and that you add details. So like Melanie had said, make sure you add detail. Make sure you give 2 examples or more. When it has a plural, like principals, we know that they want more than just one example. And make sure that you have each section covered, because I think we go into form mode when we see templates sometimes. Make sure they're complete sentences. Make sure you're approaching it kind of like an essay where you write with a lot of detail, pay attention to the flow of it. And you can do that in revision at the end. But those are some common tips, tricks. The biggest mistakes that we say are sometimes just not revising and editing and not double checking to make sure that you answered everything thoroughly. I think Melanie would probably agree to that too.
Yes, 100%. I'm going to flip my camera back on real quick. Y'all, the biggest thing is just to be yourself. You have a lot of resources at your fingertips. Your faculty know, like in this 100 level class in IDS 105, you might be new to academic learning at the or academic writing at the collegiate level. It might have been a hot minute since you've been in the classroom. Your faculty know this, so they're not expecting you to be perfect. The biggest thing is to be yourself, put the work in, use the details. If you get stuck, reach out, ask questions, email your instructor, use the written feedback tool, use the services that academic support have. They're just all really great ways for you to be successful on any and all of your assignments. Allison, thank you so much. Allison's going to hang out with us for a little bit longer. I want to just go over a couple of reminders, and I'm going to share my screen really quick with you and just kind of show you like where to click and how to find things for this module 2 for this week's assignment. So as a reminder, y'all, don't forget to know how you're graded. Okay, open up that rubric, look it over, see what your assignment is asking for. Put yourself in your instructor's shoes, like you're going to be grading it just like Allison said. Utilize the template. You're going to use the same template all term long. Okay. A lot of students get confused by this. They're like, wait, I opened up this document and I had a student once do the entire thing. And I was like, no. You did so much work. You only needed to do for module 2. And they were like, what? So pay attention to the details. Take a deep breath, slow down. When we open up that template, we're only answering it week by week. You're just going to use that same scenario throughout the term, okay? Use those resources. Like I said, your advisor, your instructor, the academic support team, come back to this webinar, watch it again, look it over, be yourself, and just share your experiences and your thoughts, okay? Before I go into sharing my screen and showing you everything in the classroom space, just a reminder, this week for week 2, module 2, you have that warm-up assignment and your very first project draft assignment. They're both due by Sunday or earlier as convenient for your schedule, okay? You do need to have that Microsoft Word or something compatible. You cannot use video note submissions. We do have Office 365 for free. For your project, we're picking one scenario. We're sticking with it all term long, and you have that warm-up assignment. If you get stuck, reach out, right? That's what we want to do. So let me get out of here real quick. I want to share my screen with y'all and make sure that you can see it. Okay, can everybody see my classroom space? Everybody sees my classroom space. Now this is just a generic IDS 105 classroom, but I wanted to show you a couple of things real quick. One, course menu. When you click on announcements, in case you didn't know, this is where you can see all the announcements that is in the course or that your instructor might have already put. Like you would see a My Instructor announcement that has your instructor's contact information, things about them, office hours if they do them, how to get a hold of them. Make sure you utilize that, okay? The other thing I wanted to point out is if you go under this top menu here and you go over to Help, academic support's right here, real easy, right, y'all? But if you go to Help, the little down arrow, and click on Online Student Services, it is going to pull up all the departments and all the teams here at SNHU. Okay, sometimes it takes a minute. I don't know why it takes a minute, but it does. And you will see all the departments here. If you click the blue, it gets you to where you want to go. So the bookstore is here, advising here. Here's another link for academic support. Here's the help desk if you have any technical issues. But as you scroll down, you will see this Office 365 and other software. Click the blue, gets you where you want to go, gives you download instructions. If you do not have Microsoft Word or something compatible, you do get it for free as an SNHU student, okay? So I wanted to show you that. The other thing that I wanted to make sure that y'all know is that IDS 105 has a dedicated learning community. We have a dedicated learning community, and I was going to pop that in here real quick. Your guys says the link. Hold on just a second. I'm going to pop it in the chat. This learning community is located in SNHU Connect. Now, have you been in SNHU Connect at all? I'm going to pop this in the chat here really quick. SNHU Connect is where you can find clubs, student organizations, all the things are just there for you in SNHU Connect. And there's also the dedicated space for the IDS 105 learning community, which is outside your classroom, but it's a great place to get reminders for webinars, ask questions. Students are in there, saying hello, sharing a little bit about where they're from. So I encourage you to get in there if you can. I know the first couple of weeks are a lot. But it's just another space for your support, okay? Now, let's go ahead and look at this week's assignment. So course menu, learning modules, like always, right, everybody? Scroll down to that module 2. When you go to module 2, as a reminder, and students always forget this, click the blue, module 2 introduction. Click through the content and the information that's actually in your classroom space. Students miss this all the time. It's a lot to scroll through and click through, I know. But trust me, there's helpful information in here that you're going to need. So it'll always give you like module objectives and overview. As you scroll down and kind of arrow over, it'll bring up reading that's within the module. So here's a bunch of reading that you might have missed, goes over concepts that we're talking about, gives you some examples, talks about the difference between some of the concepts. There's text right here. And a lot of times students completely miss this. So I wanted to make sure that I showed you this. Scroll through it, arrow over once you get to the bottom, okay? Was that new for anybody? Are you like, I didn't even realize I was there. And then you have this required resources section. So it always tells you what chapters to read in your electronic textbook. It also will give you some fun videos to watch if you're more of a visual learner. There's a lot of videos in this class for you to click on and watch. If you have any technical issues, please let your instructor or the help desk know. But it can give you just kind of another frame of reference for the concepts and help you connect the dots of what we're talking about from week to week in your classes, okay? So I wanted to make sure that I pointed that out because every term I have a student that's like, wait a minute, I didn't even know that was there. And then of course, it's going to bring you to your assignment. So remember we have that warm up, which is that like open book quiz. When you get in here, you're going to see you guys, I'm logged in, even though I'm as a student, I still have instructor access. So you'll see this like start quiz at the bottom of it. that's when you click on it to start your attempt. Okay. And then when you get done, you'll be able to click submit. Does that make sense? Again, you can take it as many times as you want for your success to earn the most points. Okay. And if you go under module 2, just real quick, you'll see it right there too. Now, the other thing is that project draft. So as a reminder, click the blue, gets you to where you want to go, right? So we're going to click on this project draft, and it's going to open up where we can review the guidelines and rubric. And when you do that, it's going to give you an overview of the assignment. It's going to give you directions, and it's going to remind you, you are answering these questions this week. So for week 2, module 2, you're only answering project part 1, social justice. Okay. Here's the questions again, just in case you need them. But here are those what to submit and the supporting materials. So if you click on the project template, if you click on that, it is actually, if you have Microsoft Word, it's going to download a Microsoft Word document, okay? It's going to look kind of like this. Yours will not have the highlights. Again, yours will not have the highlights. This is mine, okay? But I wanted to point out that you literally open this up and you will type right in it. So you want to identify that scenario. So if you created your own, I'm going to type that in here. You're going to have all the information, right? The who, what, when, where, the details, the pieces, the conflict, the issue, right? But you're going to have it right there. If you chose personal, workplace, school, you can choose that. Okay. So you just want to make sure you share which one that you picked. And then you will notice as you look at this document, again, yours doesn't have any highlights. I just wanted to point this out. For week 2, module 2, you'll see complete this section in module 2, just part 1. It's just these 4 questions. Next week in module 3, you're going to have 2 questions. And then you got some questions for module 4. And then you have the last part in module 5. Okay, everybody, you are not doing this whole thing this week. Just part 1. Okay, just part 1. All right. So, and then when you go to answer those questions, again, you type right in here. Okay. That is the biggest thing I wanted to make sure I showed you. You don't have to copy and paste, or you don't have to start over or make your own document. Everything is just right here. But like Allison said, when we have a document that just has kind of like a form kind of look to it, sometimes we can forget the details and the information. So make sure you include details, use experiences, tie in concepts. And then I had somebody ask me about that dictate tool. So if you'll notice here at my screen, this is Microsoft Word. Up at the top on the right-hand side, see this little microphone, dictate? That's where you'll see it at. You click on it and it'll pull up your microphone that's in your laptop, tablet, whatever you might have, and you can just speak and it'll type for you. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that I showed you all that. And then I wanted to make sure too that you see this project scenarios document. When you click on project scenarios, it looks like this. So here again, as a reminder of all of the scenarios. So you have that scenario 1, which is school, 2 is personal, 3 is workplace, or 4 is create your own. Look them over, review them. See which one resonates with you the most. See which one you might have the most experiences with or really align with the most, because you're going to use this same scenario to answer the questions every single week, okay, that you have an assignment due. And then the cool thing is that, I don't know if you all remember, if you looked at your syllabus, module 7 is you have a final project due, right? Well, here it is. You're working on it all term long. So when module 7 comes around, you're just going back and revising, editing, adding any extra details. Like the bulk of the work is already done, which is really pretty cool. So you're already working on this final project in pieces and parts as you progress through your IDS 105 class. Okay, does this make sense? Did that help? So open up the scenario document, look it over. You can just pick one of these, or if you create your own, remember all the pieces and parts that you have to have. And then you go and you look at that template and you're like, okay, these are the 4 questions I have to answer for week 2. You're going to answer those questions. Make sure you include whatever scenario it was that you were going to be utilizing. And then you upload that. I always tell students it's a great idea if you give yourself that time to type up your rough draft, get it off to the written feedback team underneath academic support. Let them give you some pointers or guidelines. Make sure you're heading in the right direction, or you can always reach out to your instructor and then get it submitted by Sunday. So project draft is due by Sunday. Also due by Sunday is that warm up. Okay, that is all I have for today. I wanted to leave you with this quote by Paul Hawken. Everywhere in the world are ordinary people willing to confront despair, power, and incalculable odds in order to restore some resemblance of grace, justice, and beauty to the world. So go out there and do your thing in the world. You are 100% capable of answering all these questions. doing all these assignments and balancing everything that you're going to have to balance since you added school to your schedule. You have an amazing team of resources and support here at SNHU to help you be successful. If you get stuck, if you have questions, if you're not sure on something, please make sure that you reach out to us. Y'all, you got this. I hope that this helped. I'm going to stay for a couple minutes, see if there's any other questions or anything that you might have. And then I will be letting y'all go. So if you're ready to go, goodbye. I hope this was helpful. I hope that you enjoyed it. Your faculty look forward to reviewing your assignments as you get them submitted here in week 2. Make sure you head into the learning community, check it out, watch the videos, watch the webinars, work with your resources, and again, don't hesitate to reach out if you get stuck. Y'all are going to be amazing. Thank you for spending your time with Allison and I today, and just remember, you got this, y'all. 100%. You got this. So I'll hang for a little bit if you have questions, and then we'll be all done for the day. Have a wonderful rest of your week, everybody.